Welcome to British Focus, your source for the latest on British politics and society. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more updates. Today, we look at a growing crisis in rural Wales. Labour MP Steve Withan is challenging his own party, demanding an end to inheritance tax on family-run farms. Farming is the backbone of Welsh life, yet many families now face losing land they've worked for generations. Meanwhile, wealthy investors exploit tax loopholes, buying up farmland without ever using it for agriculture. Withan is calling for urgent changes to protect real farmers before it's too late. Let's dive into the full story.
Of my constituents in Montgomeryshire and Glyndŵr. Farming is at the heart of Wales' social fabric, playing a vital role in our economy, food security and our stewardship of the beautiful Welsh countryside. On Saturday, I met with representatives from the FUW in Llansilin and NFU Cymru at a farm in Llanerfel to discuss the ongoing challenges that farmers are facing. Farming is currently the least profitable sector of our economy, and changes to APR are having a significant impact on family-run farms. A lifelong farmer in my constituency raised her children on her 220-acre farm. Although considered small, the farm is valued at over £1 million. Her 48-year-old son, who has farmed alongside her since the age of 18, had hoped to take over the farm. His young daughters now share his passion. Sadly, they now face the prospect of losing the farm they have worked so hard for. Now, let me be clear. I support progressive taxation to ensure that the wealthiest pay their fair share towards the upkeep of our society. In the 21st century, we see individual plutocrats and super wealthy multinationals buying up agricultural land to avoid paying inheritance tax with no intention of using it for farming. This reduces our farmed land, which we can ill afford when we have a fast-growing population in an unstable world. The proposed changes to APR for farmers come on the back of this and more, and feel like the straw that broke the camel's back, or as we would say in Wales, i'r hoelan olaf yn i'r ach, if the honourable member for Keir Starmer can forgive my North East Wales accent. These changes to APR risk having a deeply detrimental effect on working family farms. And what's at stake here? Food security. I have repeatedly spoken in the Chamber about my heartbreaking experiences with hungry children and food banks. In recent years, we have seen something many never thought they'd witness: food scarcity, empty shelves in the supermarkets, and astronomical food price inflation. Mr. Stringer, it cannot be understated how that period of food inflation affected the poorest in our country. I won't say more about the proposed APR policy as a whole. Prior to my election in July, I attended 10 hustings. 10 hustings. We do like our hustings in Mid-Wales, and my thoughts on this topic are well known and are on the record. However, I will speak about mitigations. Firstly, can I respectfully request that the Minister considers raising the threshold? If this policy is to target those who buy farmland solely to dodge inheritance tax, then let's make it so. Raise the threshold and actually increase the rate for people like that, so that no family farm is affected. Secondly, can I respectfully request, can I implore the Minister to look at an exemption for farmers who, at the risk of sounding macabre, but to make myself clear, are too late in life to plan for this proposed change. I hope the Minister and the Chair can forgive my emotion when you sit with an elderly farmer and his wife, and with both fighting back the tears, they tell you, if only I could die now, if only there was some kind of pill I could take now so that my children won't have to worry about this. It does have a really profound effect on you. Diolch.
The hypocrisy of Keir Starmer and the Labour Party could not be clearer. On one hand, they claim to be the party of the working people, the defenders of fairness, the protectors of those who rely on hard work to sustain their livelihoods. Yet, here we have Steve Withan, a Labour MP himself, openly criticising his own government for policies that are threatening the very backbone of rural Britain, our farmers. It speaks volumes when an MP has to stand up against his own party because of the damage they are causing to the people they are meant to represent. Farming is not just an industry in Wales, it's a way of life, a tradition passed down through generations. These farms are not just businesses, they are homes, legacies, and the foundation of entire communities. Yet, the Labour government is pushing forward with inheritance tax policies that could see thousands of families stripped of their land simply because the government wants a larger slice of the pie. And for what? To fill the pockets of a bloated, mismanaged state that continues to waste money on vanity projects, unnecessary spending, and policies that prioritize ideology over practicality? Let's be clear about what's happening. These tax policies are not targeting the super-rich, the elite who can afford accountants to find loopholes and offshore bank accounts to stash their wealth. No, the people who suffer the most under these policies are hard-working farming families. People who dedicate their lives to producing food for this country, maintaining our rural landscapes, and ensuring the security of our food supply. Instead of recognizing their contribution, the Labour government is punishing them with a system that sees farmland valued at over £1 million as if it was some luxury estate rather than a place of labour and sustenance. And while real farmers face losing their land, billionaires and corporate giants are exploiting the very same tax system to buy up agricultural land, not to farm it, but to hoard it as a financial asset, a tool for tax avoidance. These are not people with muddy boots who wake up at 4 a.m. to tend to livestock. These are investment firms and multimillionaire elites who couldn't care less about food security or the preservation of the countryside. And yet, the Labour government does nothing about this because, let's be honest, the people in power would rather cozy up to big business and global interests than defend the ordinary British farmer. What makes it worse is that these policies don't just hurt individual farmers, they hurt all of us. Food security is not a luxury, it's a necessity. We have seen in recent years how fragile the supply chain can be. Empty shelves in supermarkets, skyrocketing food prices, shortages of staple goods. These are not abstract concepts, they are realities that British families have faced. And yet, instead of strengthening our agricultural industry, instead of supporting the people who provide us with homegrown food, Labour's policies are actively making it harder for family farms to survive. And let's talk about the human cost. This is not just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's about people's lives. The story that Steve Withan shared, the elderly farmer and his wife, breaking down in tears at the prospect of losing everything they have worked for, everything they had hoped to pass on to their children, that is the true impact of these disastrous policies. Imagine reaching the end of your life, after decades of hard labor, only to be faced with the realization that your legacy, your home, and your entire life's work will be taken from you by a government that preaches fairness but delivers only cruelty. This is what Keir Starmer's Labour Party has become, a party that talks a good game about standing up for working people but, when it comes to real action, throws them under the bus time and time again. And it's not just the farmers who should be worried. If this is what they are willing to do to one of the most essential industries in the country, who will be next? What other hard-working Britons will they decide to squeeze dry in the name of progressive taxation, while the real elites continue to get away with everything? Steve Withan is absolutely right to call this out. But the question is, will anyone in his party listen? Or will they continue to push policies that punish the wrong people, policies that weaken our economy, and policies that prioritize their own political agendas over the needs of the British people? Because if they refuse to listen, the British public will have to make their voices heard in the next election. Other news, yet another case of dishonesty from those who claim to be the most competent, most trustworthy, and most capable of managing the UK's economy. Rachel Reeves, our Chancellor of the Exchequer, has been caught red-handed embellishing her CV, exaggerating her time at the Bank of England to make herself look more experienced than she actually is. And what has been the response from Labour? A dismissive shrug, calling it an admin error. An admin error? Really? This isn't some minor typo in a forgotten document. This is a fundamental misrepresentation of her career history. Her LinkedIn profile, which for years has claimed she spent a decade at the Bank of England, has now been exposed as false. The reality? She left in March 2006, not December, meaning she spent 5.5 years there, not the nearly 10 she has repeatedly boasted about. And yet, she has built part of her political identity around this supposed experience, using it to justify why she, above all others, can be trusted to handle the UK's finances. How many times have we heard her proclaim, with that air of authority, that she spent the best part of a decade as an economist at the Bank of England? That was her go-to argument when she wanted to prove her economic expertise. It was repeated at Labour conferences, in interviews, and even in Labour policy documents. Now we learn that this decade was little more than 5 years, with nearly a year of that spent studying rather than working. And the excuses coming from her team? Blaming an admin error as if this wasn't a carefully crafted deception designed to inflate her credentials. Let's not kid ourselves. This was not an accident. You don't accidentally add nearly 5 extra years to your career history. This wasn't a momentary slip-up. This was a deliberate attempt to mislead the public. If she had been a private sector worker caught lying on her CV, she would have been sacked immediately. But politicians, especially those in Keir Starmer's Labour Party, seem to believe they can get away with anything. And of course, when Angela Rayner was asked about this, she brushed it off as irrelevant. According to her, what really matters is that Reeves can balance the books and restore public trust. But how can anyone restore trust when they are caught lying? How can a politician who has misled the public about something as basic as her job history be expected to manage the economy with honesty and integrity? This isn't just about Reeves, it's about a wider pattern within Labour. They present themselves as the party of competence, the party of transparency, the party that will fix Britain after the so-called economic recklessness of the Conservatives. But when the facts don't fit their narrative, they simply rewrite them. When their own ministers are caught deceiving the public, they close ranks and pretend it doesn't matter. And what does this say about Keir Starmer? The man who promised to bring integrity back to politics. The man who talks endlessly about standards in public life. The man who insists that Labour is now a party of serious government. Yet, under his leadership, we see scandal after scandal swept under the rug. If he truly cared about honesty, if he truly wanted to hold his team to the highest standards, Rachel Reeves would be facing serious consequences. Instead, we get spin, excuses, and a complete disregard for accountability. This is the same Labour Party that constantly lectures the public about trust in government. The same Labour Party that demands transparency from everyone else while hiding behind weak justifications when they are caught out. If this is how they behave before even winning a general election, imagine what they will be like once they have real power. And let's not forget the irony here. Labour has spent months attacking the Conservatives over integrity issues. They have pounced on every Tory scandal, every resignation, every misstep, branding them corrupt, dishonest, and unfit to govern. But when the scandal is in their own ranks, the rules suddenly change. Now, it's just a mistake. Now, it's an admin error. Now, it's irrelevant. People deserve better than this. They deserve politicians who don't manipulate the truth to serve their own ambitions. They deserve a government that doesn't think it can gaslight the public into ignoring clear evidence of dishonesty. And most of all, they deserve leaders who are held to the same standards they impose on everyone else. Rachel Reeves has been exposed, but the real question is, will anyone in Labour actually take responsibility? Or will they, once again, hope that the public forgets and move on as if nothing ever happened?